Hey everybody, welcome back to another Sims 4 speed build. Today I'm doing a build of a modern library. I feel like a lot of the libraries that we have in the game are just a little bit boring or they're a little bit too big. There's kind of awkward buildings, and I wanted to fix that. I wanted to build a library that I would be really excited to take my Sims to. So this is kind of where I ended up. Kind of similarly to a lot of the modern builds I make, they're kind of tricky to do just on the fly, at least for me. So a lot of times I'll go through and I'll find a reference photo on the internet and use that as a baseline of what I'm doing, and I definitely did that in this build. This is actually based off of, I think it was the South Berkeley Library in California, which was this really cool modern looking library. And while there weren't, I didn't make it an exact copy and I didn't capture every single exact same element of that library. I really used that as inspiration and a baseline for how I want my build to look. One of the big challenges about modern builds as The Sims, especially if you're using a reference picture, is that there's a lot of things in real life that really don't translate well to The Sims 4, and I feel like this comes along a lot with modern builds where you have maybe like half walls that you want to put. I feel like this comes along a lot in modern builds, especially with how we do half walls and platforms, because sometimes you'll want to have windows, up high, but then you'll have to use a half wall and then you have half wall trim, because you can't just put windows straight up on a platform, and that kind of gets really tricky sometimes. Another thing I was doing with this build is I feel like when I use packs, I kind of tend to do it in three different ways. I either do just completely base game build. Sometimes I'll do a build where I'll do limited packs, so I'll mentally go beforehand and say, like, okay, I'm going to use base game and eco lifestyle, and that's it. Or I guess four ways. The other way is sometimes I'll build and I'll try to be mindful about the packs that I pick. So if there's just one random piece of clutter, I'm like, oh, I super want that, but it's not in one of the packs I've kind of mentally decided I'm using, I'll try to see if I can find a good replacement in something that's already in the build, just to make things a little bit more downloadable. And then, of course, there are plenty of times where I just decide I'm going to have myself a free-for-all. I'm going to use whatever I want. I'm not going to put any restrictions on the build in terms of the items I'm allowing myself to use. And that's kind of how I like to build in The Sims. Just a mix of things that are going to be accessible and downloadable for your average simmer. And also just stretching myself so I use items that I don't normally use, and I'm not just using the same exact items over and over again and building the exact same thing. And I feel like, oh, it's super fun. That's how I like to do it. I don't know if anyone has a different kind of schema, or if most people are kind of more of a free-for-all builder and just using whatever you want. But this is kind of how the outside of the library is coming along. I want it to be bright and colorful, and I also try to echo that theme in the inside a lot. And I did this nice little patio space out in front and did like I used a little mailbox actually, so I could kind of pretend it was a book drop-off spot, and I also hung up a cork board. You imagine like there's library announcements for like, oh, like story time is on this day, and like obviously you don't have that in The Sims, but I really like to imagine that type of gameplay a lot when I'm making builds, so I wanted to feel this a little bit realistic. And then the library floor plan was something that I actually struggled with quite a bit, but my concept going in was you'd walk through the door and to be like a circulation desk and a library sign, and then to make a kid's room, have the space for a bunch of computers, and then have like an adult reading room. I was debating whether I wanted to make this library 2 stories. The lot's pretty small, and I wanted to do something that was more simple. So this is kind of where I ended up with a relatively small library, but there's a lot packed in there. There's a lot of space for Sims of all ages, and that was my biggest goal here, was not only have it look fun and colorful, but I also wanted it to be functional, where you could take your whole family of Sims there, and it wasn't just like, oh, your adult needs a computer, and the kids and toddlers are just going to awkwardly sit around. I ended up building the kids' room specifically with kids and toddlers in mind, to try to give them some stuff to do, so it felt more multi-age functional. I also was really inspired by the new high school pack, and I used a lot of stuff from it in this build, so stuff like the bookcases and the rugs, and the 2 kind of like beanbag-ish style chairs, and I feel like that was definitely a big inspiration and driving point of having this cool modern library and then having the bright colorful furniture, especially in the kids room, but then trying to make some like analogs to that over in the adult area. So it still felt adult, but it also was a fun, colorful place for you to bring your Sims and be like, oh, I'm excited to go bring my Sims and play in this a lot. Also, like I mentioned, I put in the little activity table from Parenthood so the kids would have something else to do besides computers at the library. And then I also ended up adding in some toys later on. So if you Sim doesn't have a toy in their inventory, there's some toys at the library already that they can use and play with. Also in the bathrooms, I tried to make this build as toddler friendly as possible. I feel like we really lack that a lot in The Sims 4 since the toddlers didn't ship with the base game. So a lot of the builds just weren't made with them in mind, but there's toddler potties and things in the bathroom. So if you bring your toddler, they have nothing better to do. You can at least force them to go potty. That's a super fun thing to do at the library, right? Right? Maybe not. But anyways, now we're on to the part where I struggled with this for a long time, which was how I wanted to do this little computer area. And I saw people doing this online where they'll use a curved wall and then they'll put the little eco lifestyle wall decorations on it. And they use that as like a she divider because then you delete the wall and the eco lifestyle wall pieces stay where they were. I was like, oh, that's so slick. I'm going to do that. It's going to look so good. And then I tried it and I hated it. And I could not make it look the way I wanted to. I tried doing just the wall pieces. I tried overlaying them to like cross-hatched a little bit. Just couldn't make it work. Didn't like it. Tried it many times, as you can see right here. And then I just deleted it and said, you know what? I'm just not going to do it that way. One thing I did put in this build that I thought would be super useful, because I don't know about you, but whenever I bring my Sims to the library and they like desperately need a computer, there's always someone on that darn computer and my Sims can't go and do whatever it is they need to do. And that's really annoying. So I made a little tech suite. The public library in my hometown had one, but a lot of college libraries have them too, which basically it's a little room with a door that closes and it's got a computer inside. So if you're playing in this library, you could lock the door of the tech suite to everybody except for Sims in your household, and then no one else would be able to get in and hop on the computer, which is a really sneaky way where if you don't have enough money for a computer, then you can just kind of, I don't want to say you'd be cheating the game, but you'd be helping yourself out, you know? And then, so the rest of the adult reading area kind of came together pretty easily. I had a whole like little bookshelf section, so it'd be like, you know, the stacks of books, as well as some tables just set up. So that was something that's pretty common in almost every single library I've gone to. And then I decided I want to mix up the shelving a little bit in this area, so I used a bunch of base game shelves, and then I just carefully put some other books on them so that it wasn't just the same shelf repeated over and over again and just look exactly the same. And then a couple more reading chairs over here, another whole little rug section. Put a little side table too. I was imagining it was like, you know, the new arrivals table, like check out these books. And I like doing that type of imaginatory like gameplay. Same thing with the little racks I put in by the checkout area. I was imagining it was like, oh my gosh, like the new movies or the new comic books that are in, like, you know, check these out at the library. I love those little storytelling aspects in builds. I feel like it makes everything just a little bit more realistic, and pretty fun. And yeah, so I put another bank of computers. So there's a total of 7 computers in this build. There's the one that's in the tech suite behind the door, and then there's 2 by the main entrance, and then 4 in like the adult area. I feel like that's a healthy number of computers. So, I mean, let me know in the comments down below if you think 7 computers in a library is not enough. Love to hear your hot takes on that. And then in terms of wallpaper, I like to put down all the objects first and then go back and do the wallpaper. So for most of the library, I just did a nice light blue color. And then for the kids' room, I did the fun drippy wallpaper from the high school pack, because I was trying to use a bunch of stuff from that pack, because I haven't built with it that much yet. Then there's the toys I was talking about, putting like a duck and a cat, just in case your toddler needs something. And then there's also a Blarfy, so, you know, you've got most of the skills covered except for thinking, but you can always bring your own iPad. So, you know, that's great. put some rugs underneath the computers, and then just started putting up some last minute, or not last minute, but some final touch decor items. So I could put some reading posters up in the kids' room. Or the kids' reading room, and then I put just some paintings and wall decorations, just so that it didn't feel incomplete. And I also put some books behind the circulation desk, pretend that maybe they're waiting for your sim to pick up, maybe they're ones that were dropped off. And then I started working on the outside. I didn't want to do anything big and crazy outside the library, but part of the build requirements is that there's a chess table. So I decided to have a patio and put a couple chess tables out there, but then also just put out some patio furniture, so you can imagine like your Sims are just coming here for a picnic or to hang out. I was debating whether to put playground equipment or not, but then the lot was kind of small and I felt like it would look awkward, so I decided to leave it out. But let me know, should I have put playground equipment in here? What do you think? How multi-purpose do you like your community lots to be? I don't really build community lots that often. This is the first one I've built in a really long time, so definitely let me know in the comments down below what you thought about this community lot, and if you'd like me to build another one. And if you'd like me to build another one, which one should I do? I would love to know. But anyways, we're starting to get to the end of this build. Just putting on the finishing touches. I also put solar panels on the roof because I figured it was a modern library in Oasis Springs, and I felt like it would be trendy. There's also there's telescopes around on the patio as well. So another skill building opportunity, and also I feel like sometimes libraries just rent those out. I feel like that's normal. But anyways, this is the final build. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.